We're back. Joining me now, Senator John McCain of Arizona. Senator, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Well, you just heard the president's top advisors say that this immigration decision was not about politics, it was about enforcement.
Well, the thing that may disturb people after the initial euphoria is over about this is that the President of the United States is now dictating that certain laws will not be enforced. That is a rather serious step. It's one thing to say you're not going to challenge a law in court or something like that, but I don't recall a time when any president has basically said, we're not going to enforce a law that's on the books.
Will the decision stand in your judgment?
Well, it would have to be challenged in court.
What about legislatively? Will you try to do anything?
I don't think that with the agenda that we have, but also the fact is that Marco Rubio and others have been working on a DREAM Act. If the president were really serious, maybe he would call him and some of us who have been involved in this issue. I'd remind you that in 2008, the president committed to comprehensive immigration reform. He had overwhelming majorities in both houses of Congress. Nothing was done. No proposal was made. I was asked.
But you've been for comprehensive immigration reform for a long time. You worked with Ted Kennedy. You worked with President Bush. I mean, the Republican Party moved to the right on this issue and made that impossible. It's not. You can't lay that at President Obama, can you?
Well, I can if you have 60 votes in the United States Senate, an overwhelming majority in the House for the first 2 years of your presidency, no matter what the position of the Republican Party was. I think that this is obviously a way to divert attention from very bad news the president's had for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think that's very clear. What I would like to see is Marco Rubio and others are coming up, both Democrats and Republicans, with a DREAM Act that I think we could negotiate on. Everyone has sympathy for the plight of these young people.
Well, let's talk about what the DREAM Act is. So Senator Rubio says that if you're a child of an illegal immigrant, and this was, by the way, a proposal the Democrats had as well that the president supported, if you're going to school or you join the military, that you could get on a path to citizenship. Now, Mitt Romney has said he would veto that law, and back in January, in the Fox News debate, January 16th, this was his position on the DREAM Act. I'll show it to you.
I think we have to follow the law and insist that those that have come here illegally ultimately return home, apply, get in line with everyone else.
That's not your view. Do you wish that Mitt Romney would change his view about the DREAM Act and immigration generally?
Mitt Romney has said recently and a shorter time ago this morning that he's willing to address this issue, but he and a lot of us would like to see this addressed in comprehensive immigration reform because we need guest workers, both in the high-tech sector and the farming community. We need to address those remaining 10 million people who are here illegally, not just the children of people who are brought here illegally. This is one aspect of the need for comprehensive immigration reform, and I'd like to remind you that when Ted Kennedy and I had comprehensive immigration reform, it was a Senator Obama amendment that was one of the factors. There were many, but it was one of the factors that killed comprehensive immigration reform. And the issue was on the guest worker program.
Right, but you can't deny. I mean, it was the conservatives in the Republican Party that made a Republican president who championed this issue unable to get this done.
I think the major factor was probably on the right, but it was also on the left. Those Democrats controlled by the labor unions who said that they did not want and fought against a guest worker program, which we felt was obviously something vitally important.
You think Mitt Romney is wrong on the DREAM Act?
I think
he hasn't supported
Romney, he said again this morning, and he has said previously, he is certainly willing to address that issue and also immigration reform in a comprehensive fashion as well. He is willing to do that and is ready to do that. He understands the plight of these young people. All of us are very concerned about that aspect of this issue. But I would also point out I don't think Mitt Romney as President of the United States would say we're not going to enforce existing laws. That's the first time I've ever heard of a president doing that. It may have happened, but certainly not in this fashion.
Let me talk a little bit about the economy and some of the attacks that are being leveled by Mitt Romney against President Obama. And looks to be very similar to what Obama did against you in 2008. So back in 2008, one of the most memorable lines, you said the fundamentals of the economy is strong. The Obama team pounced on that. This is the ad they put out, you might recall.
The fundamentals of our economy are strong. The fundamentals of our economy are strong.
The idea here, which you thought was unfair and out of context, is that you didn't get the economy, that you were out of touch. Well, now fast forward, the president says the private sector is doing fine, and here the Romney team pounces. This is the ad.
The private sector is doing fine. The private sector is doing fine.
It's basically the same ad. So I imagine that you would say to Mitt Romney, hey, that's an unfair knock against President Obama, just as you thought it was an unfair knock against you.
Of course not. At the time, the stock market had just fallen 700 points. Americans were frightened. I wanted to reassure the American people that the fundamentals of our economy are strong. It's still the best system in the world. That's why we have Steve Jobs and Apple and Facebook and all of those things. And I still believe that. Now, what President Obama just said was that the private sector is doing fine. The private sector is not doing fine. And there's more to this than just that comment. It's his overall view. And he went on in that same statement to talk about how we need to hire more government workers, that the key to our economy is to expand the bureaucracies of government. That's a fundamental difference between him and Mitt Romney, and the reason why Mitt Romney is going to be elected, because Mitt Romney believes that businesses create jobs. Let me give you a small example. We got $1.5 trillion sitting overseas, okay? $1.5 trillion, double the stimulus package. All we have to do is bring that money home. These companies that are holding that money promise to invest and hire, and we could have a stimulus to our economy. Why is it that the Obama administration won't bring that money home? It's because they want to tax them. The highest corporate tax rate in the world is in the United States of America. This is the kind of no-brainer stuff that, because of his view of government, that keeps us from doing these things.
But there's another similarity when it comes to how to deal with and how to evaluate Mitt Romney's business record at Bain, but also his experience as being governor of Massachusetts. This has been the subject of an attack by President Obama against Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney says, look, I understand how to create jobs. I was in the private sector. When those ideas were put to a test when he was the governor of Massachusetts, a candidate back in 2008 interpreted those results this way.
When he was governor, they had the third or fourth worst economy of any state in America. The manufacturing jobs left this country at 7%. They left Massachusetts at 14%. So I think people just take a look at his record as governor. And again, as the head of his investment, quote, company, he presided over the acquisition of companies that immediately laid off thousands of workers.
Now, again, your campaign against Mitt Romney from 2008 is long over, but the substance of your critique is what the president is critiquing Romney for today. You don't see any problem with that, do you? It's accurate?
Look, this is the height of a very tough primary campaign that Mitt and I were in. Time after time after time, which we don't show. I showed my respect and appreciation for the fact that he was a successful Republican governor working with Democrat legislature. The fact is that Bain yes, thousands were laid off, but also many more thousands were hired. It was a tough campaign, and you say things in campaigns that obviously are to help you. But I can tell you this, that Mitt Romney's view of what this economy needs to be done and what needs to be done to cure this economy, and the record of what President Obama has tried to do is vastly different.
But
when you look at the stimulus, when you look at Dodd-Frank, do you believe that any organization, banking, financial institution isn't too big to fail today? Do you believe that Obamacare isn't opposed by some 60-some percent of the American people?
Senator, you don't disavow your critiques of the business credentials of Mitt Romney.
My critique of the business credentials of Mitt Romney are that he had successes and that he had failures. And that's, unfortunately, the downside of the free enterprise capitalist system. But overall, his record I think, will stand and speak for itself.
I want to ask you a couple of matters about foreign affairs, including something that's political as well. Sheldon Adelson, the casino owner, is pledging vast sums to the super PAC supporting Mitt Romney. New reports this morning saying he may contribute as much as $100 million. Are you concerned he will have undue influence on this election and undue influence on Mitt Romney?
Well, I'm not only worried about him, I'm worried about many others, and I've always been concerned about the labor unions who take money from their union members and without their permission contribute to causes that they may not support. So am I concerned about the incredible amount of money that's washing around? Yeah, I was concerned also when President Obama, when he was a candidate, said he would take matching funds and then didn't, and then outraised me, obviously, by a great deal. I'm concerned that the president continues to go around to all of these fundraisers when maybe he should be spending more time governing.
But Sheldon Adelson makes money from a foreign casino as well. You said this week it's tantamount to foreign money getting into the campaign.
I think there will be scandals as associated with the worst decision of the United States Supreme Court in the 21st century. Uninformed, arrogant, naive. I just wish one of them had run for county sheriff. That's why we miss people like William Rehnquist and Sandra Day O'Connor, who had some experience with congressional and other races with the political arena.
Do you think Adelson himself will have undue influence on Mitt Romney?
Not any more than other people who give lots of money. Not any more than the trade unions, the labor unions have. Not any more. The whole system is broken and is awash. I don't pick out Mr. Adelson any more than I pick out Mr. Trumka. So the fact is that the system is broken. I predict to you there will be scandals, and I predict to you that there will be reform again.
Before you go, Syria is a deteriorating and violent situation. The president will meet with Vladimir Putin. There seems to be a frosty relationship over the issue of Syria. What do you advocate at this point that you think is the most responsible course here to try to end the violence?
Most responsible course first is the president stand up and speak for these people. When's the last time the president of the United States spoke out and said, these people deserve our moral support? The second thing we need to do is make it a fair fight. It's an unfair fight now. Russian shipments are coming in. Our Secretary of State just argued that Russian helicopters are coming in to help Bashar al-Assad, while we do nothing. We sit on the sidelines. It cries out for American leadership. This president does not believe in American leadership and American exceptionalism. And so we need to give them a sanctuary. We need to give them equipment, working with other nations in the region.
But you say he doesn't believe in American exceptionalism just because he won't send arms into what could become a bloody civil war? That's what you want to get involved in?
No, everything that the president has displayed from the beginning of his presidency is that he does not.
But you are not worried about the kind of civil war we've seen elsewhere in the Middle East by adding arms into a sectarian conflict in Syria?
Worried about a continued massacre and slaughter of people, innocent people, women being raped, children being tortured and killed? You're not worried about that? You should be.
Leaders make decisions all the time about where to intervene and where not. We're not intervening in Darfur, and those women are being raped and kids are being killed there too.
Well, of course, that's an entirely different situation, but we did go to Bosnia and we did go to Kosovo, and this also, by the way, would be the greatest blow to Iran in the Middle East in 25 years. So there is a strategic aspect of this as well. Look, you can argue the case as long as you want, but the fact is people are being killed and massacred and tortured and raped, and it is an unfair fight. They're being supplied by the Russians with Iranians on the ground, and the fact that the United States of America is not helping these people, and we can, is shameful.
All right, we'll leave it there. More to come on that, obviously. Senator McCain, thank you very much. Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Thank you.
On a lighter note.